Welcome friends, thank you once again for tuning in to Chilled Guitar Reviews. I've got a very different type of video for you this week. This is a video that I've been meaning to make for quite some time. It's been on the back burner of my video to-do lists. I want to talk to you today about the best metal pickup that nobody uses, nobody seems to know about, and until I did my first video on it, nobody was talking about either. The very early beginnings of this channel a couple of years ago was just me talking about guitars in my collection and getting a feel for being on camera, having spent years being behind the camera, developing a format, seeing what worked, that type of thing. But one of the first, I think fourth or fifth video I ever made for this channel was a review of my Solar A1.7 guitar, which is this bad boy right here. Now, in the course of making that review, I explained what I'd experienced with the guitar, but I also touched on what I'd done with pickups. Now, the Duncan Solar pickups in that particular guitar were just not to my taste. They were medium output, passive, own brand, sort of budget pickups, you know, okay, not offensive really, but just not really kind of ballsy enough for metal in my opinion. Generally, I like a high output pickup. It doesn't have to be active necessarily, but like a high output passive or one of the classic active pickups or that type of thing. So I began my search for a 7-string pickup and all the usual choices came up. And by total chance, just Googling, I came upon the Seymour Duncan Retribution pickup. This was probably only a couple of years after it had actually been released by Seymour Duncan, and immediately I was drawn to it because I was like, oh my god, it's a signature pickup from Dino from Fear Factory, one of my favourite guitarists of all time, one of my favourite bands of all time. The problem I had was there was no information about this pickup whatsoever, apart from the Seymour Duncan product page and the Seymour Duncan launch video that they had done with Dino, which was like a 3-minute video of him just absolutely crushing some riffs, giving you a basic explanation about what the pickup, you know, did and what the ethos was behind it. The issue with that is Dino Cazares. Anything he plays is going to sound absolutely crushing and awesome because it's Dino Cazares. So back then I took a total punt and I bought my first set of these Seymour Duncan Retribution pickups. Now, those of you who've seen that older video of me reviewing the Solar A1.7 will know I was just totally blown away by how good and how unique these pickups were compared to what was on offer from the competition. At the time of uploading it, my review of this guitar and review of the Seymour Duncan Retributions was the only YouTube video, yes, on the entirety of YouTube, talking about these pickups. The only other video on there was the Seymour Duncan launch product video, so I was the only person at that time talking about these pickups, using them, singing their praises. So that was like surprising to me because they were just so superb sounding, and in a minute I'm going to get into exactly what these pickups give you that's unique compared to other metal pickups on the market, why they just sound so incredible, and why they are really my favourite 7-string pickup. Something that was really nice about doing that first video on them was it got noticed by somebody who I have followed on YouTube for like years, gotta be 7-8 years easily, and that is Mr. Kevin Frazzard. I hope I'm saying your name correctly, my friends. Canadian YouTuber, jacked motherfucker, excellent guitarist, plays brutal kind of death metal. Not long after I put that first Solar video up with these pickups in, he directly referenced it and like put a clip of that video in his video, saying that it had made him want to try this pickup, and he'd installed a 7-string version of it in one of his custom guitars and absolutely loved it, and he made like a dedicated video about it. So as somebody who was just getting their feet wet with YouTube and starting to make forays into it, that was just such a boost for me, and I was so appreciative of the fact that like he shouted out my channel and drove people to it and all that type of thing. So that was just a really nice bonus off the back of installing these pickups and giving a good review of them. I have guitars behind me with EMG pickups, Fishman pickups, I've had DiMarzio pickups, I've had Seymour Duncan. I am not saying these pickups are better and all those are crap. I absolutely love my Fishman and EMG equipped pickup guitars. But what I am saying is these pickups should be considered as an option alongside all those others if you are a 7 or 8 string guitarist. Now, why are these pickups unique compared to some of the competition? Well, these pickups are actives. They are based off of the regular Seymour Duncan Blackout pickup, but they are specifically customized and tuned to Dino's specifications. Now, what's interesting is these pickups are actually quite low output for an active pickup. If you look at the output graph, and here's some footage of me playing a Fishman pickup against this pickup, and you can see just on the input meters straight away you can tell these are less high output than something like a Fishman Fluence Modern, for example. These are probably about 3/4 of the output of the standard Seymour Duncan Blackout. So these are probably one of the lowest output active pickups you can buy, certainly in terms of like metal and rock focused pickups. Now, that might sound a bit odd because generally if you go for active pickups, you want huge amounts of output, compression, that type of thing. But really what that means is, in my opinion, these pickups have the perfect amount of output for metal, for really any other type of genre. You get that nice active push with just that little bit of extra compression to your playing, that little bit of squidginess, the kind of reassuring slurriness of the notes that you get with active pickups. But you don't get just an insane amount of output hitting the front of your amplifier or modeler, and I never find I have to overly noise gate with these pickups because they're just not crazy high output. So I really think that output-wise, what Dino and Seymour Duncan have done with this pickup is just so well judged and is really quite unique. These are definitely less hot than any other type of metal pickup out there. But the upside of that is you just never really have issues with like noise of your fingers over the strings or having to excessively noise gate just to control gain, especially if you are using things like overdrive pedals and that going into the front of your amplifier. Secondly, what makes these unique is that these are voiced in a completely neutral way. Now, Dino mentions this in the Seymour Duncan product launch video, but effectively what he specified was that he wanted the pickup to be voiced flat. So There's no pushed frequencies like you may get with something like an EMG81 or a Fishman Fluence Modern. Those pickups have a real spike in the high mids, which is brilliant for cutting through a mix, a very nice classic sound. But these pickups are just so evenly voiced. There's no annoying frequencies, there's no kind of ice pick in the eardrum that some people don't like from active pickups. They are just a very mellow, sweet sounding pickup with just the perfect amount of high-end roll-off, the perfect amount of low-end. There's not too much flubby bass in there or anything like that. Again, I have no idea like the process and the engineers involved who developed these pickups, but they're just so well judged. The EQ curve is totally flat. Now, combined with that active preamp that isn't quite as hot as other active pickups, the clarity of these pickups is just mind-blowingly good. There's just so much note definition playing drop A like I do. A great example of this is, I'm going to play you a clip from that first solo A1.7 video I did. Now what I did in that video is I showed you what the guitar sounded like with just the stock Duncan Solar pickups in, which are just, you know, average budget kind of passive pickups. Then I played the exact same riff with the Seymour Duncan Retributions, and just listen to this difference in high-end fizz and clarity. So taking on board everything I've said about the way these are voiced and the level of output that they're tuned to have, you can just see in that example what you are getting by installing these pickups and upgrading from, you know, say a budget own brand sort of passive pickup. You're getting rid of all that horrendous high-end fizz that I always EQ out personally. But you're just gaining so much clarity. It's like you're getting all the frequencies you want and none of the frequencies you don't want as a metal player. One other thing that's important to note about these pickups, again, that makes them unique, is that these are the only pickups I've really seen that have a genuine selection of casings that mean you get the exact same pickup regardless of if you buy this as a typical active soap bar, like in this Legator guitar here, or you can install them in a passive casing, which is a smaller, rounded off plastic casing that is designed to perfectly retrofit into passive mount pickup cavities. Now I know that some of the latest Fishman pickups, Fishman Fluence, they do give you like a Hot Rails version, and there's passive kind of shaped ones, but I don't know if you could truly say they sound identical because there's quite a difference in the design of the magnet. These two sets of Seymour Duncan Retributions I've got, the soap bar and the passive casing, they sound completely identical despite the fact the casings are very, very different. Now, one word of warning about the passive casing versions of these pickups: they don't always fit directly into the cavities if you are upgrading from a passive setup. With my Solar A1.7, I did have to route the cavity just a little bit bigger to get them to fit. Now, certainly nothing as severe as you would have to do if you were converting from, say, passive to an active soap bar. But just bear in mind, you're going to grab a set of these in the passive casing. Be prepared that you may need to do it in a small, just a little additional amount of routing just to get them to fit. Now, the good news does not end with the bridge pickup version of these. The neck is sensational for cleans. Again, there's just the right amount of push. The voicing of the pickups is very, very neutral, so you get a really sweet, clear sounding pickup with just the correct level of high-end roll-off. Now, as I've mentioned, I'm not saying that these are the best and EMG and Fishman and the competition are just rubbish. It really comes down to personal taste. As I said, I own Fishman and EMG equipped guitars and I love them just as much. They do give me something different tonally to these pickups, but that is kind of my philosophy to my guitar collection. Each guitar I own, I want it to give me something different, depending what mood I'm in, depending what sound I fancy getting, and that really applies to these pickups and the other guitars I've got with competitor pickups fitted. So just for your kind of information, and because it's an interesting topic, here is the same riff played on Seymour Duncan Retributions, EMG 707s, and Fishman Fluence Moderns. And if you can, I would really encourage you to listen to these comparisons through either headphones or studio monitors. So what do you guys think? Do you like one over the other? Do you prefer a different pickup to Seymour Duncan Retribution? You know, this is totally a subjective thing. What I can tell you is these pickups, it's a crime that unfortunately these are not available for 6-string. They are currently only available for 7 and 8-string models. If there was a 6-string set, I would absolutely snap Seymour Duncan's hand off to get a set of these. So Seymour Duncan, if you're watching, please consider bringing these out in a 6-string. Dino did play a 6-string for the first few years of Fear Factory, so I don't know, maybe that's my argument there. What I can say is that when it comes to 7-string, these are by far my favourite set of 7-string pickups. I have used guitars equipped with these pickups for every piece of 7-string music I have recorded. There is a single release I did called Inverse Trajectories on my YouTube channel that I'm going to link in the video description for an example of how these sit in the mix and how they sound with a produced piece of music. Please do go and check out that song. I think we achieved a pretty killer tone on that single. So once again, shout me in the comments, what do you think about what I've shown you? Hopefully I've brought to your attention a lesser known metal pickup that's quite unique and is something that you guys are willing to try. If you have enjoyed this video or found it useful, I would really appreciate it if you could like it and subscribe to the channel. These things really encourage me to keep cracking on and producing cool guitar content for you guys. Better yet, you can support me via the Buy Me a Coffee link in the video description below. Any financial support, donation, even if it's just £1, anything, it's so appreciated and it all goes directly back into the channel to fund more content and fund competitions and that type of thing. Until the next chilled guitar review or video, do take care of yourselves and we'll see you soon.